Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Ashley Talks Movies. Got another movie review for you guys. This time I'm going to be talking about Bombshell, the new film directed by Roach, starring Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie. And the film details the Roger Ailes Fox News sexual harassment scandal from 2015-2016. So I have to say right off the bat that I was really looking forward to this film. I had very high expectations for it, mostly because of the cast, because as I mentioned before, Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie's in it. John Lithgow, he plays Roger Ailes, is in this film. And I also had high expectations because of the subject matter, because if you were paying attention back in 2015, 2016 to the news cycle, you're very much aware of this story. Where, Gretchen Carlson, who is played by Nicole Kidman in the film, leveled sexual harassment allegations against Roger Ailes, who was chief of Fox News at the time, and then sued him. And then that set off this domino effect at the network, revealing that there was a systematic problem with sexual harassment within the network. And then Megyn Kelly gets involved, played by Charlize Theron, when she also reveals that she was sexually harassed by Roger Ailes. So, really, really looking forward to this film. And I have to say, for the most part, this film met my expectations. It's not perfect, and there's some things that don't quite work here, but for the most part, it's a very enjoyable film, and most of it works really well. Yeah, so anyway, let's just get straight to the review.
Ready to go to war?
Oh, yeah.
So as I mentioned before, this film is directed by Roach. Many of you may know him as the director of Meet the Parents, but he also directed Recount, which was a TV movie for HBO, and also Game Change. Both are like political type films. And this movie was written by Charles Randolph, who co-wrote the script for The Big Short. So I mentioned those two things because if you're familiar with either Recount, Game Change, or The Big Short, you'll get a good sense of kind of the style that this film is going for. It very much has that fast-paced feel to it, similar if you saw The Big Short, of how scenes are intercut and characters are intercut, and the story moves really, really fast, and people talk kind of fast, and there's quick edits, and it has this sort of frantic feel to it, to kind of make everything feel urgent and to keep the pace going. So Bombshell very much has that feel to it, that style to it. This film also tries, because as I mentioned before, it's covering a big, big topic. I mean, you have sexual harassment, you have Fox News, and I think the film tries its best to sort of simplify it for people who were not as familiar with the story, because it's a very complex story, because it's not just about sexual harassment in the workplace or sexual harassment at Fox News or Roger Ailes being involved in that. It has so many moving parts, because you have Gretchen Carlson, who files a lawsuit. Well, Gretchen Carlson, who gets fired from Fox and files a lawsuit against Roger Ailes, leveling sexual harassment allegations against him. And then you have this it's in the news cycle, and then you have Megyn Kelly, who's sort of hanging out in the shadows, kind of watching as things kind of unfold, because people are wondering, is she going to say something, because she was a huge personality at Fox News at the time. And then she's involved, and meanwhile you have, Fox News trying to do damage control. It's just, there's a lot of moving parts. And so the film, I think, tries to simplify things, even when I think they oversimplify things and kind of overlook certain things, but just to make it more digestible for people who were not as familiar with the story. So I think it does a pretty good job with that, because for the most part, I mean, I went into this knowing quite a bit about the story, just because I watch the news all the time. So I was very familiar with it. But if you didn't, and if you weren't as familiar with it, you can come to this film and have a pretty clear understanding of what's going on, because the film does a good job of keeping it, not making it overly complicated. I think one of the things that works really well with this film is the cast. And that was one of the things that I was really looking forward to with this film, and they delivered. I mean, Charlize Theron looks so much like Megyn Kelly, even in the trailers and the posters, but even when you're watching the film, even more so, because they actually do use real footage along with, you know, the fictional portrayals, and she looks so much like Megyn Kelly. And even watching the film, I had moments where I had to remind myself I wasn't looking at Megyn Kelly. I mean, Charlize Theron does such a great job with not only how she looks, you know, her physical portrayal of Megyn Kelly, but also, I don't know if she watched, you know, Megyn Kelly's broadcast or something, but she nails the like her speech patterns so well. I mean, she talks just like Megyn Kelly. I think of all the characters that are in this film, Megyn Kelly's is the most complex, or has the most layers, and Charlize Theron does such a great job. Nicole Kidman's also in this film, does a really great job with Gretchen Carlson, and you know, I still think Charlize Theron's performance is the best, the strongest in this film, but Nicole Kidman does a really good job, and in fact, her performance is just different than Charlize Theron's, in that hers is more quiet, subdued performance, because, and I think it works for Gretchen Carlson's, like for the Gretchen Carlson character, more so than sort of the more in your face and you know, aggressive Megyn Kelly type character. Then you have Margot Robbie. Margot Robbie's in this film. She plays Kayla, which isn't a real person. It's a fictional character that they created for the film, but she's essentially like a mixture or a combination of, she's there to represent women who have been harassed in the workplace. So she's just like a combination of all these different types of women, and she's there as like sort of a representative of that. Margot Robbie does a great job with the character. Her acting is fantastic, but I don't think necessarily the character quite worked for me, you know, as a representation. There are a few moments with the character that I thought, oh, that's really great, and they should have more of that. But they're few and far between. Like there's a really interesting interaction between Margot Robbie's character and Kate McKinnon's character, and it was a surprising interaction, but it was also a fun kind of interaction. And then there's another moment later on in the film. I'm not going to say what it is because I don't want to spoil anything. But there's a moment with that character where the character has this like sort of revelation, and Margot Robbie does such a great job in that scene. Like, just wow. John Lithgow does a really great job with Roger Ailes. I don't know how accurate his portrayal is of Roger Ailes, but he's able to manage this balance of like Roger Ailes being this really powerful man, but also being this like really disgusting person with what he does. And there's a scene with Roger Ailes and Kayla, the character played by Margot Robbie, that, I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in the theater during that scene. I imagine for like many people, it made them uncomfortable. It made me uncomfortable, and I imagine for other people in the theater, it made them uncomfortable, which is why everybody was just silent, like holding their breath. And I mean, it's made to make you feel uncomfortable. You should feel uncomfortable. If you don't feel uncomfortable in parts of this movie, there's something wrong. The story's pretty good too, as I mentioned before. I think, the story tries not to be too complicated. It does move really fast, as I did mention before, this sort of frantic pace, and I think maybe for some people it might be a little hard to keep up because, again, the characters are talking fast, everyone's kind of moving fast. It cuts from this scene to this next scene, and then you're, this date, and then it moves to this other date. So it's a little dizzying at times, especially if you're not familiar with who everyone is and what role they play. But it's engaging. And it's interesting. It's frustrating, and you get upset at moments, and then but there are moments of levity. There's humor sprinkled throughout this film, which I was pleasantly surprised by, and for the most part, the humor works with this film. Yeah, overall, I enjoyed this film. I really did. I mean, I had high expectations going into it, but I think for the most part, it worked. The acting is fantastic. As I said before, Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, Margot Robbie do a fantastic job with their characters. The story moves at a brisk pace. It's not perfect. I mean, one thing I will say, criticism I didn't mention before, is I really wish, in order for me to have enjoyed this film more, I really wish this film would have been a little bolder and taken a little bit more risk in the story. I mean, I get why it played it kind of safe, because I think I briefly touched on this earlier, in that people have their opinions on Fox News. There's plenty of people out there who don't like Fox News, and they have their opinions about it, and that's fine. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. And so I think the filmmakers going into this had that in mind. And so in order to make sure that the audience would feel sympathy for someone like Gretchen Carlson or even Megyn Kelly, who were prominent figures, personalities on Fox News, were very much part of that Fox News culture. I think they didn't want them to be shown in a negative light, and so for the most part, they're shown very positive light, and I think that was intentional to make sure that the audience they garner sympathy. But I think most people will enjoy this film, and I mean, the message is still there. This idea, like, women dealing with sexual harassment in the workplace. It's not just a Fox News issue. Okay, it's an issue that I think most women that work in any industry have faced, or know someone who has faced at any point in time in their career. And so that message is very much clear. But yeah, again, solid film. Really enjoyed it. I think most people will enjoy it as well. So those are my thoughts on Bombshell. Let me know what you think in the comment section below once you've seen the film. Did you like it? Did you not like it? What did you think of Charlize Theron, Nicole Kidman, and Margot Robbie's performances? So yeah, share your thoughts in the comment section below. Please like and share this review, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.